Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like tonight's film, 1970's Delinquent Girl Boss from the Stray Cat Rock series. This is actually the Stray Cat Rock box set from Arrow Video, and all the movies are on here. And Delinquent Girl Boss is the first one, and that's what we're looking at right now. But there's no different cover art for you. But if you go on my Facebook page, I will have a poster image, an original poster image for just this film. Delinquent Girl Boss 1970, the Stray Cat Rock series. Here it is. This is the box set here. Quite a challenging box set actually with the Blu-rays themselves and how they're put in there. I've never seen anything quite like it before, so just know that if you get the Arrow Video. I picked this up on the 50% off sale that was going on. And I'm a fan of the Pinky films. I'm going to be doing reviews of Pinky films on the YouTube page in the future, the Roman porno, things like that. And I've done Entrails of a Virgin, Entrails of a Beautiful Woman, you know, some very edgy Asian cinema. And this is a very interesting series, and I've only seen the first film so far, Delinquent Girl Boss, in that it is a series really before Pinky as we know it really officially started. So this is 1970, and this is a whole nother world here. Delinquent Girl Boss into Wild Jumbo, Sex Hunter, Machine Animal, and Beat 71. This is a whole nother animal, and as you can see in the cover here, we have Miko Kaji. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. She is kind of the star of the Stray Cat Rock series. So here it goes. Delinquent Girl Boss, Stray Cat Rock. If you are into underground Asian cinema, if you are into Asian cinema with some balls, or shall we say with some vagina, and girl gangs, and violence and sensuality and things like that, and a whole lot of style, this might be up your alley. And if you are not quite in the Pinky vibe, you know, things too explicit, too perverse in the sexuality department, and even in the sexual violence department of the Pinky films, the Stray Cat Rock series might be the series for you. Now, I've only seen the first film so far, but from what I've read, it kind of follows suit stylistically, a little bit more, a little bit less, we'll see. So, Delinquent Girl Boss, we are starting up with you on the Stray Cat Rock series. What a great name for the series as well, Stray Cat Rock. I put some notes up here on the wall here, so you might see my eyes divert. So let's get into this movie, Delinquent Girl Boss 1970. We have a mysterious androgynous figure erupting in the middle of existing girl gang wars. We have love, a boxer's pride, revenge, murder, a fuzzy psychedelic classic rock nightclub, and crime. You know, this was interesting, as I mentioned, a boxer's pride. It almost reminded me of pieces of the one story in Tarantino's film Pulp Fiction. Maybe because I don't see a lot of films with boxers, you know, in the exploitation genre. It was very interesting, even stylistically. So let's get into this film here, and we're going to start off with the style of this movie, because I got to tell you something here, folks. I saw some style in this film, and if this is indicative of the rest of the Stray Cat Rock series, then there you go. But I saw some style in Delinquent Girl Boss that I have never seen before in any film, and in any of the future Pinky films, Roman porno films. Never saw style like this before. So very, very interesting stuff. We have things in this film that really take experimental style to a whole nother level. I just never have seen anything quite like it before. We have weird split screens. I mean, now split screens, I mean, yeah, okay, that's a fairly common trope of the 70s in particular with Carrie, but split screens that form different angles in the screen and come out of nowhere, involving people looking in the same direction that splits each one of their perspectives. Really, very much so, I guess, like a comic book in some perspective, maybe like Asian comic books. And very interesting. And it comes out of nowhere. And it's done in a very unartistic way. If that even makes sense. It's done more in a very stylistic way, not in the way that maybe Carrie and a lot of the 70s films were done. This is done in a very stylistically experimental type of fashion. It's more experimental. Um, Interesting perspectives that boggle your mind a little bit. The screen filling up with color as if somebody was actually taking crayons and coloring in everything, and uh, and the characters are the only people not colored amidst everything around them. Like it's like somebody's coloring in the world around them with neon colors. We have sucker punch strobe light title sequences that signify each day in the film, involving pink strobe lights. I kid you not. So in this film, it takes place over the span of a couple of days. So you have, you say something like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it happens over the action. It happens right over whatever's happening on the screen, and it comes out of freaking nowhere. And if the lights are out in your room or in your theater when you're watching this movie, you will be blinded. I mean, it's wild. It's so freaking wild. The word stays in the screen, and then it just Monday. It's wild. Wild floating and gliding of the camera all over the place. The cameras in the nightclub, in particular, really floating around the band, floating around the instruments being played, floating just around the stage of this psychedelic classic rock type nightclub. Really interesting. We have zooms in this film as well. Now, we're not talking the zooms of like Jess Franco and things like that, and we're not talking as manic, and we're not talking as many, and we're not talking about almost filling the scenes up, but nonetheless, we do have zooms that happen. And as I talked about the psychedelic nightclub, music-wise, this is a very interesting film music-wise, because we have some light elements of music in here, some light, dramatic, jazzy type elements of music. Now, I collect a lot of underground Asian girl gang type soundtracks, predominantly Pinky soundtracks, Riko Iki and Miki Sugimoto and things like that. And I rightfully say I've never heard any of the music in this film at all, on any of those soundtracks. So this is definitely another world. It's another beast from the Pinky films. Delinquent Girl Boss has, some jazzy stuff, some moody stuff, some dramatic stuff, but a little light at the same time. It has like a lighter vibe to it. Now, when we get into the nightclub sequences, I mean, this looks like a real band. It looks like a band that's pure 70s, maybe some Beatles influences, maybe some Jefferson Starship type influences, some psychedelic San Francisco vibes, hitting it up. Some very interesting, just a really interesting classic rock psychedelic feel to the band in this film. And we do spend a little bit of time at this nightclub and a little bit of time with the band itself. So it's very interesting. And it sounds like a really like a Japanese classic rock band from the 70s. And there's a lot of music throughout the film, and as I said, it's lighter than I expected. It might not be exactly what you expected, and it's I remembered having some dramatic elements to it as well. Not necessarily your typical exploitation sounds, but of course you also have some fun jazzy type vibes in here as well. Now, in terms of the environments in this film, we have parking garages, we have parking lot wastelands, we have the nightclub, the 70s psychedelic nightclub, lots of lighting in there. We have city streets, neon Japan, almost reminded me of Sofia Coppola's film Lost in Translation a bit, but back in the 70s. We're really having a nice aspect of the city streets here at night and seeing all the neon signs. I mean, it really looks like, Broadway in New York City in this area, but many more people, much more hustle bustle, and a lot more interesting just shops and stores all around, people everywhere, and interesting elements with the people everywhere as well when you watch the film. The film is not as explicitly violent as the Pinky films, but this is a violent film, not gory, and not that outlandish type of cinema that we see a lot, especially in the modern era, with like blood, like just like a hose flying out of their necks. It's not like that at all. There's not much violence in the film, or sequences of violence, but when it happens, it is ferocious and real and dark and bloody. Real bloody. You know what I'm saying? Not almost cinematic bloody, real bloody. And there's an element of grit to it that was quite shocking, especially since this film, it's a girl gang film that has hatred and revenge and murder and those elements. But there's also a little bit of a more of an innocent vibe in the film also. There's a little bit more of an innocence in here as well. So when the violence happens, it's so jarring. And the climax of the film has some very violent sequences, some shocking violent sequences. And something that I've heard is that this Stray Cat Rock series, it's not like these films all connect with each other. They are individual films, so if a character dies in this film, they might be alive in one of the other films on here. So that's interesting. They stand alone, I hear. They're not sequels, but it's a series. And we have some pretty... It reminded me a little bit of Dario Argento in the violent sequences. If you've seen his film Tenebrae or really any of his films, even Phenomena, and when violence happens, it sucker punches you, and it happens hard. It happens wild. And that was something that I found very interesting, is that the violence happens like it erupts. And yeah, there's fighting, of course, with gangs, but there's violent attitudes and there's hatred. But the majority of the real bloody violence in this film seems to be one-on-one. It seems to be smaller groups. And it's vicious and it's dark. The sexuality of the film, we have a little bit of side nudity in the film. Like I said before, this is not of the pinky explicit level at all. But we have some side nudity, some just top of the breast torture, behind the scenes kind of implied rape and white slavery, but you don't really see it. Kind of have some moody, darkly lit implied sex scenes that don't last long. And we have an interesting kind of androgyny in the film, an androgynous character that I've never seen before in a film like this, which I found very interesting. And I believe that this character might be in the rest of the films as well. So really, really interesting stuff here. Delinquent Girl Boss, part of the Stray Cat Rock series. And of course, we have some lighting and everything, and there's a section of the film that really was dark. It was very darkly lit, and I almost thought that there was something wrong with my television or something, but it wasn't. It was just very darkly lit, and very interesting how that section just kind of comes in and comes out of nowhere there. So this is Delinquent Girl Boss, and this is the first in the Stray Cat Rock series, and I'll be reviewing all of them in the future at some point. So, very interesting. And very interesting stories within stories and side stories, like I said, with a boxer and some past issues and some past romances and friendships and greed and crime syndicates and crime gangs and crime lords and kind of how the relationships intertwine and how a newbie shows up and has to pick sides in the gang fighting that's happening, and there's men involved as well. This is Delinquent Girl Boss 1970. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like this one. Thank you, and good night.